Go live. Going live. It's Thursday, October 10th, 2019. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is a Sleepy Geek Nights. Tonight, we are talking about the logistics of moving. We actually struggled to have a sort of, this format of Geek Nights. We do an opening bit that makes us human, like, oh yeah, here's some anecdote from my life. And then we talk about the news. Then we do a main bit.
All those opening bits we built up during our minor hiatus.
All forgotten.
All forgotten as predicted.
I feel like every day.
I actually did a lot of, I had my recent days have been not normal days. I wasn't like, going to the office, going to work, coming home. I was home one day getting a furniture delivery, putting furniture. I built like 4 IKEA things in a day.
Yep.
And today my hanging guy came.
The other weekend, we went out and did a really, really grueling, difficult hike upstate.
He hung a bunch of shit on the walls as I paid him to. He was just as awesome dude as last time. Did a great job. But it's like, what is there to say about that? I already said everything about it.
Yep.
There were no unusual events during those, things, right, to tell a story about.
And I already talked about the more recent unusual events, but no unusual event has happened to me in the last, 27-ish hours that I can think of. So
I guess the only minor thing I can mention is that my new apartment, directly outside the window of my apartment, is like directly across the street. Like, look out the window. There it is. You can look into the window of the high school, like the fancy Long Island City High School.
Oh.
And basically, I can't
figure out a class that's there and post relevant things for kids to cheat with on
I don't think they
tests.
can see into our apartment. I could put stuff on the balcony, but anyway.
Put up a big banner that's
But
just
the
like
thing is, I can only
multiplication tables.
barely, I'm sort of at the edge of the building. What I can see the entirety is the field. So basically, my balcony is like a A+, like first mezzanine seat to see the entire sports field, watch every high school sport for free without paying any money to the kids with the donation bucket at the at the fence, as if you'd want to watch any of those sports.
Let's see. When I was in high school,
I've been seeing a lot of free high school sports. I saw a football game. There was soccer today when I was coming over.
So despite being really into hockey,
the negative part is that already twice early in the morning, relatively early, we've been woken up by football practice going like,
you just should thank Satan that this isn't the Midwest, because you'd be woken up this season every morning by a marching band.
There
being
was
crazy loud.
there is a band. It was not large. You would say that it was minuscule.
I mean,
by your measurement,
it's got to be over 100 kids, or it's not much of a marching band.
I'd say this wasn't even tens of kids.
But
during the football game, I did hear like doot 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 chicka 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 doot 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 doot.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a cadence.
Yeah, I mean, there was some kind of banding happening.
So I think back now as a kid, despite my high school had a hockey team, but because they played like off-site, because even though this was a really like wealthy high school, even the wealthy high school cannot afford its own ice rink. So
there was in Connecticut, where I lived, the ice rink was called Wonderland of Ice, and that's where pretty much all ice-related things in the area happened.
Yep. So I never once saw our hockey team play, because I just didn't.
Oh, I didn't see our high school team hockey team play.
I went to,
but
our
I did see AHL games.
I never went to a basketball game the school had. I never went to any sports the school did except football, because since I was in the marching band, I was forced to. Like, I was not optional. I would be in trouble if I didn't.
I never went to any of my high school sporting events ever.
And when I was a senior, I started going to basketball games only because the pep band had started to kind of collapse. So I kind of took over the pep band and ran it, which meant I had to go to every stupid game. And because we couldn't get any percussionists to join the pep band, I basically played drums for this band.
I did go to see, I wasn't in high school yet. I think I might have been in middle school. But at the high school that I went to, there was a charity game. I forget if it was Harlem Wizards or Harlem Globetrotters.
Ooh.
Versus New York Football Giants.
Wow. That's actually pretty funny.
That actually happened at my high school. I actually went to it. I remember, I think Lawrence Baker, the touchdown maker, was there.
Whoa. All right.
The Giants got crushed because they were playing basketball. They weren't playing football.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like 5 New York Giants, maybe a couple.
It's like, let's watch the New York Rangers play Overwatch.
Against a couple. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Z-Bad, like he's Tracer and he just keeps jumping off the edge.
You
of the
know,
map
after
over
you
and
buy
over again.
tickets, you have a good time, and the money goes to some kind of charity thing,
Yeah.
and then you wait in line to get autographs from, all the players
So,
on both teams.
In the entirety of my time in high school, despite being obligated to go to every fucking home football game for the entirety of my time in high school, I never saw the second half of any football game because
After
only,
that halftime performance, you're like, see ya!
Yep, literally. So what's funny though, I think I talked to this a long time
You
ago.
didn't perform at the end if you won?
No.
Okay.
Because we were in a pep band, we were the marching band, so we'd do we'd play the national anthem in the beginning.
At halftime, you should have just spelled out, like, fuck,
No.
right on the field.
We pulled a few
Or
pranks.
like, go other team.
we
Even
did
though
some
you're
pranks.
right, you were Detroit, you should have been like, go Chicago.
But the two things that were notable and weird about that was that we had a full football field on our school, like multiple football fields. We had one real one and a whole bunch of practice fields, but the real field with bleachers, like full on everything,
Maybe
and
we had that.
lights, was too close to the M53, a highway. So the state, or I don't know if it was the state of the county, they basically banned us from ever having the lights turned on.
So
Meaning
just
we could
why
never
have the lights?
a night game.
So why have the lights?
Because the lights were there before the highway was like upgraded or something. This is before I got to
so
high
the lights
school.
did get used at one point.
Yeah, long before I got to the high school.
I
By
see.
the time I got
Okay,
there.
okay.
So
Our high school switched from being Pepsi school to a Coke school at some point while I was in high school.
we had neither. We banned it. We banned it all.
While I was in high school, they switched from a Pepsi school to a Coke school to get money to get new lights.
Oh.
Or to get lights to begin with. I forget.
So basically,
A new scoreboard. I don't know.
this crazy football field with a full-on bleachers and everything could only be used by the marching band because we were the only people who would use it during the day. But that meant every home. So there were 4 high schools in our area. Stevenson was the crappiest of them, and it was like our rival because we chose our rival to be the crappiest of them, obviously. And we were the biggest. We had to have all our home football games at their school.
Okay.
So when we played them, there would be home games and away games, but they're always there.
It's called MetLife Stadium. It's right there.
Yeah.
The New Jersey football teams play there.
And it sucked because it meant every time there was a football game, and there were a lot of them, we had to go to our high school, and then the whole marching band would be put on like 20 like yellow school buses and be taken to this other school to do the thing. And either you could try to get on one of the 10 buses that would leave from that school and take you back to where you left your car at our high school, or you had to stay to the end of the game, and then the other half of the buses would leave. The other half of the buses were always empty because everyone just got to ride home because nobody wanted to see football. And the funniest part was all the people who came to see the game, other than the parents of the kids who played football, also left at halftime. So it was basically empty.
There weren't too many spectators at the football game I watched.
They were
Also,
full for the first half.
Long Island City, I think, lost.
Nah.
They were just winning at girls soccer, though, 3-0 just now.
So there's a bunch of news going on, and I think I said this in the forum, but this the Hong Kong issues and the Chinese censorship in the U.S. is actually kind of exploding like rapidly.
Well, it's exploding across all fronts.
Yep.
Right.
And it's not that nothing's
You got
different.
the NBA front is probably the top front.
Yep. The
then
Blizzard
you got
front similarly
the
big.
Blizzard front was the second front, but now the Apple front has come in and pushed itself into second place.
Yep. And I think people are starting to realize that, like I said on Twitter and said on the show, this is every front because every American company in every industry tries to avoid pissing China off. And this is all going to get pushed to a head in a hurry because as soon as all these domestic American
You just have to be a company that does something that is so safe, such as there is, like, for example, if you make, I don't know, fucking children's board games, it's like nothing you do is offensive to anyone on earth. So it doesn't
unless
really.
you also don't manufacture it in China just in case.
I'm just saying, it's like, you're not printing anything with a map of China on it.
Yep.
There's nothing right?
Dude,
It's-
it is easy to mess up, though. Do you know how many things I've seen where, like, an incidental background image in a video game is a stock image of a classroom that happens to have a map that happens to not show China owning one specific fucking island in the middle of the Pacific?
I'm just saying.
Like, that happens.
Right, but I'm saying, like, if if unless your company does something that is so mundane, like, you make bagels, right? Then it's like there's nothing unless there's some bagel hating country. It's like there's nothing offensive to anyone about what you do, any reasonable person.
I wonder if
right?
Furry.com
But
is
if you do
blocking China.
but if you do anything, a sport, it's like, oh, we play basketball. What's offensive? Nothing. But the fact is, if you do something that big, then you have all these public famous participants, and now you're open to anything that they say and do, right? So that involves all sports, anything streaming, anything media based, right? And of course, anything entertainment or content based, where you might be creating artwork that is offensive to someone somewhere, right?
Yep.
Music, movies, books, anything like that. Games that aren't just simple like Mario. Anything, Mario's okay for the whole world, but anything else.
Oh, so we are not blocked in China yet.
No, why would we be?
You never know.
We're so small they wouldn't notice us.
Yep.
It's a manual blocking process.
Challenge accepted.
In order for us to be blocked in China, we would need like people in China to like start spreading us around. Like, oh my God, check out these 2 podcasting dudes in China.
Yep.
who are talking shit.
So the one thing I will disclose though is because in the course of that report, like I'm very much against Blizzard on this. But as you all know, I also own kind of a lot of stock in Blizzard. So one, to avoid a conflict of interest in being able to cover this fairly, and 2, because I don't know how this is all going to end, so also it's just enlightened self-interest, I divested myself of all of my investments in Blizzard. I sold all my stock.
How much could you possibly have?
I don't know if I actually want to say how much I had, but it was many hundreds of shares.
Few thousands of dollars?
No, more like many tens of thousands of dollars.
All right, well, buy me something then.
I'm going to buy some other stock.
Buy me a car, put it in the garage in my building.
Why would I buy you a car? Do you want to split a car?
No, I want a free car.
No, I'm not going to give you a free car.
Well,
However,
that's the only kind of car I'll accept.
I would split a car that we could both use.
Fuck
and
no.
pay
Hey,
half of parking in your stupid building.
No, fuck cars.
Because my building, like no buildings here are allowed to have parking garages.
Fuck cars.
Which I'm glad for. I'm glad that nobody here has a place to park.
Yeah, in my building, they're desperate to have people buy the parking spots that are in the garage underneath the building, but the bike parking, they had to get another rack.
I've been down in that garage.
The point is, fuck cars. The only car I want is one that costs me nothing, because that's how much I'm willing to pay.
Thing is, the only times I need a car is to go skiing in the winter.
That's right.
So, and I looked in.
There's 2 BMW Zip cars in that garage because I guess they couldn't sell the spots to anyone else.
But Zip car is so expensive.
Right, but I had to pay the annual fee, so fuck that.
No, the annual fee is trivial. The problem with Zip cars is that it ends up costing like over $100 a day to actually use the cars.
Oh, fuck that too.
To use one of those Zip cars over a weekend is terrifyingly expensive because their business model assumed you'd use it like in the city, like using it to do stuff in the city, but no one uses them for that. They use them to go out of town on the weekend.
Of course.
So, anyway, the Blizzard, like the China Blizzard stuff is going to continue to escalate, and it's a rapidly moving space. So I'm assuming by the time we do our next Tuesday episode of Geek Nights, there's going to be a lot to say about it. In other news, we cannot avoid this. As you know, America's been in the throes of a constitutional crisis since January 21st, 2016, basically. And it's only been escalating since then. And you might think, but Rim, if it's been escalating that whole time, how much more could it escalate? Well, let me tell you, it escalated more in the last 3 hours than it did in the last week.
I mean, I got to say, the one thing that really raised my eyebrow, right, is I have heard people who are usually the kind of people that I get mad at for being far too reasonable. Right? You know those people.
Yep.
The people who are like,
oh, please come testify. And
right.
Then,
well,
like,
no. And, I mean, like, public figures who are like on the news or whatever, right? You know, the kind of people who are usually like, rule of law, this and that, reasonable. They're not people who are like, revolution, burn it down, shoot everybody, crazy talk, right? But those people, right, were suggesting one particular crazy thing, which is the most reasonable.
Wait, is this a Scott kind of thing?
Right. Normally, the kind of thing that Scott would say,
Yup.
right, as a crazy, not entirely serious thing, like, oh, do this thing, obvious, right? The people who are far too reasonable were suggesting, right, that the House of Representatives, to enforce its subpoena power, should send out the entirely ceremonial person, the sergeant at arms.
Oh, to go arrest them?
To go and arrest people. And I'm like, that is a ceremonial dude who holds a mace and is not someone who goes and arrests anyone.
I want it to be Chekhov's mace. Go use it.
The mace is a fascist, first of all, which is not cool.
Yeah, but it's tricky because that predates.
It does, but the point is that
I feel like we should still change it.
that dude is entirely ceremonial. That's like crown jewel ceremonial. There is
Yeah.
nothing actual enforcement about it. If that dude went to arrest someone with a gun, right? I don't even know who it is. Is it even someone who's like physically powerful, or is it like an old ceremonial dude? Is it even a dude?
See,
it could be
as
anybody.
As much as I love like the most ridiculous,
But the super
procedural-
reasonable people were suggesting that, and me, crazy person, is saying, no, what? That person isn't doing jack shit. They're just there to do
Yeah.
this. They're just there to like, do a thing.
So here's the thing. In reality, what that person represents is a power that the house has.
Yes, symbolic power.
Well, no, literal power that just happens to have not been exercised.
Yes, but it is also entirely symbolic. I don't think in the history of the United States that person, the sergeant at arms, has ever had to do anything except like maybe kick a drunken person out of the house or something, right?
Now I'm looking to see if there's got to be some crazy story of them doing
I'm
something.
sure there is, but they've never, I don't think, gone out and gotten someone else to drag them in with, as a subpoena.
All right, well, theoretically, they could get other people
First
to
of
do
all,
it.
who is the person?
It's this guy right now named Paul Irving.
What's up, Paul?
Paul
What's Paul all about?
Paul is, I don't know, he's all about being the sergeant of arms, I guess.
Yeah, what does he
As
do?
the chief, all right, GeekNights has now devolved into reading Wikipedia. So, as one of its first
Did you?
resolutions,
You heard about this, right?
Yeah.
People suggesting this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, believe me. Where do I hang out politically? Bark is where I hang out.
Okay, then people definitely were talking about this there.
So basically, one of the very first things the first Congress did after the Constitution, which for those of you who don't know was way after the Revolution. We actually fucked up and made a whole different government, and it didn't work at all, and we gave up on it and we started over.
They teach it in school, but people sleep through that and don't remember it.
Yep.
They don't fully understand what was being said. In fact, when it was the Articles of Confederation were taught to me in school, it took me like 2 days into that section
To
of
realize
the
it
course
wasn't the Civil
to
War.
realize like what the fuck are they talking about? It's like
Yeah.
wait. We had the Revolution and then we did something else and then I'm like the Constitution wasn't from 1776 also?
Yeah, we had
What
government one,
Like
and
what?
Government won.
Like why didn't you say this like repeatedly on the first day of this section?
Wait, I can explain this to modern listeners of Geek Nights. So the public beta of the U.S. government didn't go so well.
Yeah, that's right.
So this was basically one of the first things we ever did as a nation.
Okay.
Establish this role. They are the chief law enforcement officer of the House.
Correct.
They're responsible for security of the physical building.
Yes, it's like a bailiff in a court. It's not like a cop who can arrest people.
Under the direction of the Speaker, they are responsible for maintaining order and decorum.
Yes, like I said, I'd kick out a drunken dude.
Yeah. The House could basically decide the House can decide what this person's duties are.
Of course.
The House could say
Theoretically.
the House could appoint an army under this dude if they wanted to enforce the rules of the House.
Yes, of course. On paper. That will never happen. That's crazy talk. Why are reasonable people making crazy talk?
Because it's not that crazy, because we're in the middle of a crisis in the sense that if the White House refuses to follow the Constitution, which they've literally, the White House literally sent a letter to the House of Representatives.
Yes.
This is not a joke, saying, we do not recognize your authority to impeach the president.
That's right.
That is fucked up shit.
Right.
That is not even the craziest thing that's happened this week. But that is the level of craziness. The Senate, which is responsible for removing the president, refuses to take action. And the entire justice system is under the control of the White House, so they can't do anything. And the Supreme Court was compromised by 2 illegally appointed justices, so they can't do anything. So we're just stuck right now.
Well, I mean, the question is, if they did the crazy thing and sent the sergeant at arms to go and arrest people from
Go arrest. But there's the crazy thing. Who would they arrest? Rick Perry and Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah. If they
what
send the
fuck is
sergeant at arms to
going
go and arrest people, then what would the Supreme Court say? That's okay?
Yeah, and then what do we do? Does the House say, well, no, because the Supreme Court's broken? Like, what? We're in weird territory, and it's only getting weirder. So the crazy shit that just
All I want to
happened-
say is it's never going to happen. But if it happens, I need video of the sergeant at arms going and hitting someone
Oh
with a mace.
my God.
It's got to be on video.
Yeah.
Right? Hit him with the mace. The fascies. Hit him with.
Basically, our
Whack. It's big, by the way. You don't want to get hit with that.
so the House just subpoenaed
Go look for a picture of it. It's scary.
Rick Perry, who is basically an idiot who got appointed to a position where he couldn't do much harm.
So everyone in the
Yeah.
in the executive branch.
The problem was the position that they thought he wouldn't do much harm in is the Department of Energy, which if you don't know anything about the U.S., that is
Department
not,
of Energy covers a ton of shit.
Well-
not just power making.
Well, it actually doesn't really cover
nuclear
power making.
weapons.
Yeah, the Department of Energy is basically a euphemism for fucking nukes.
That's the number one thing they do.
Yeah.
They do a lot of other stuff too that is surprisingly unrelated to nukes.
But they basically put this befuddled idiot in charge of it for political reasons. And our president basically just said, oh, the crime I did it because that guy told me to.
Well, that's never an excuse to.
Yeah, but that's the kind of excuse I made when, like, I pulled a prank on my brother and I got caught. And I would lie and tell my mom that my brother told me to do it. Like,
That's right.
That's literally what's going on. So he got subpoenaed over that. Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, who is also really crazy, if you didn't know.
He was slightly crazy. Now he became more crazy.
So as far as I have learned, he's actually always been this crazy, just no one noticed.
How could he not notice?
They just didn't because no one ever put him on TV long enough to let his crazy out.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like, well, there's a lot of people like that where you put them on TV.
Rim.
My crazy is usually well contained. But the craziness that just happened is Rudy Giuliani, who is already being subpoenaed by the House and is already guilty of like every fucking treason. And
I only wanted to talk about hitting someone with the fascies. I'm really.
No, but basically,
Can we stop talking about this now?
he was doing business with these two dudes who are Ukrainian and appear to be former like Soviet people, and they just got arrested at the airport trying to flee the country for this stuff by New York because the New York Attorney General is going after him, and apparently that's because the feds ignored this despite knowing about it. So crisis is happening amid crisis. I don't
think New York has a fascies to go anyone with.
Yeah.
Is there a mace at the New York assembly?
What I will tell all of you is that what New York has, the mace that New York State and California as a state have in all of this, mostly New York, because a lot of the stuff happened to have happened in New York. So the New York government is actually very important to the federal government for these reasons, because it's very hard to do anything in the U.S. without, at some point, involving New York City, meaning you involve the apparatus of New York State. So basically, the reason that's important is that the U.S. president can pardon anyone for anything for federal crimes. Can't do shit for state crimes. That's why New York keeps coming up, if you were curious.
No, the New York Assembly does have a sergeant at arms. It's Wayne.
Ooh.
It's Wayne P. Jackson. I don't know if Wayne P. Jackson has a mace, though.
I wonder if we could interview Wayne P. Jackson on GeekNights and ask
Wayne
him
P.
about this
Jackson
job.
looks like a cool person.
I will. This is
I
not
found
shit
Wayne
talk.
P. Jackson's LinkedIn page.
I'm gonna try to interview the Sergeant of Arms of the New York Assembly on GeekNights. Like via the phone.
He has been the sergeant at arms at the New York State Assembly since when do you think that
Oh my God.
When do you think Wayne P. Jackson became the sergeant at
looking it up,
arms of the New York State Assembly?
And the listener can see my screen. They can see I can't look in this up. You wouldn't ask unless it was really good. I'm gonna say since 1968.
You're way too early. It's 1979. 40 years.
Whoa.
In that job.
I really want to talk to this guy now. That's the kind of person no one interviews.
Connect with them on LinkedIn.
I will. I will try to talk to this person. That would be because we haven't interviewed anyone in Geek Nights in for fucking
Respected
ever.
Assembly Sergeant Arms hits 40 years in chamber. Daily News.
Wow. All right.
Person didn't even know. Vietnam vet.
So, in some other news that's also terrifying and actually really important, and people don't seem to realize what's happening here. I'm going to broadly summarize because I want to get on to like our actual main bit. But here's the deal. There's this power company in California. They caused one of the
All I heard was that there's power outages in California, and I know that the power company in California is called PG&E, which stands for Pacific Gas and Electric, right?
Yep.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
all I knew. I didn't know anything, and then Rim went off on it.
Yeah, holy shit. So, remember that giant wildfire that killed like 90 people, destroyed an entire town?
I thought that's always from like some derpy derp in the woods
No.
and Smokey the Bear.
No, this was the deadliest wildfire in the history of the state.
Right, I know that those are always caused by
No.
derpy
You know what
derps
this
in the
one was
woods.
caused by? PG&E has the most dilapidated piece of shit power infrastructure in America.
Well, California's pretty big. It's hard to,
This company is like so negligent. Allegedly, I'm not a lawyer. you know.
Isn't this why you always have like those helicopters with chainsaws on the bottom cutting down the trees and
so
branches near the power lines?
Rather than open myself up to any possible defamation, I'm just going to read this BuzzFeed article, this paragraph here. PG&E filed for bankruptcy in January in the face of legal claims.
Wait, how could the power company be bankrupt? Are they like not charging enough on the electric bills?
They're bankrupt because, to continue reading, in the face of legal claims running into billions of dollars after
so they got sued for the fire.
Because their power lines were found to have triggered the November 2018 Camp Fire, which destroyed the town of Paradise, killed 85 people, destroyed almost 20,000 buildings, the deadliest wildfire in New York State history. New York. I keep saying New York. California state history. So
that liability and losing the lawsuit is...
And because they're a private company, they were like, we're bankrupt, you can't do shit to us now.
Okay.
Because that's how that works, because they're
So the power company is bankrupt.
The power company is bankrupt because they killed a lot of people and destroyed a town.
Right.
Because they're negligent to an extreme degree.
Mm-hmm.
So they still are the entity providing power during all this.
Yeah, I mean, bankrupt companies continue to operate depending on the chapter.
Yeah. And basically what's happening is they have said because of climate change and the fact that there's this huge drought, really hot weather, and really strong winds in California.
I thought the drought was over a while ago.
No, there's still drought stuff going on.
Okay.
The state is at a huge risk of like way worse wildfires.
That's why I don't live there. One of the reasons. Earthquake fall into the sea.
This power company, their power lines,
bears.
If a wildfire happened, there's a good chance it's because these power lines caused it because they're so old and shitty because they've already caused wildfires.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to prevent these wildfires right now, because this company is such a piece of shit, is for this company to cut off power to everyone. They're just turning off the power for maybe weeks. We don't know.
It seems like maybe the problem is even like obviously if you had well-maintained power lines, it would be less of an issue.
This would not be an issue with well-maintained power lines.
But also, it seems like another solution might be just to like not run power lines through the fucking woods.
No.
Just have more power plants.
No.
In every town.
No. I do not even have the energy to get into you with this.
Because California's mostly fucking trees, right? And burn down trees.
Why do you think we use high-tension power lines in the first place?
Because you don't have too many power plants. They're expensive.
Why do you think we have a national power grid?
Because you got a lot of electricity. You gotta use it all.
The problem here is that these power lines are necessary and should be well maintained. Because they are so poorly maintained, they are likely to start wildfires due to these extreme weather conditions. So the only way to prevent those wildfires right now is to cut off power to potentially millions of people.
Well, I guess it'll be really easy to maintain them if they're not powered up.
They're not going to. They're just going to leave the power off until the wildfire conditions aren't that bad.
Okay.
Don't
live there.
Yeah, so here's what I'm getting at.
Victim blaming, but yeah, you don't live in California.
If you want to read the stories to find out all these details, because we're not journalists here, I'm just my point is much more simple. There should not be private power companies anywhere in the United States.
There should not be a private utility anywhere.
Power, water, internet should be
housing,
utilities provided by the government.
Housing, healthcare, mail, transportation.
There. I'm getting there.
All those. And then I think that's all of them.
Housing, I think it's okay to have a private housing market with the caveat that in dense places like New York City, there should not be private ownership of residential properties.
I think there should be sufficient public housing that no one should be without a house. There can also be private housing.
Yeah. But it depends on the area. Like in New York City, I do not think there should be private ownership of any residential property. But in like Bumblefuck, sure, you can own some little land with a house on it.
The point is, anyone who needs a house, there should be.
Here's the broader point. People who like to point at countries like Venezuela, or they used to point at the Soviet Union and be like, oh, look, their power infrastructure is failing. Look at the fucking United States. This is a ridiculous disaster of a story that is not being talked about as much as it should be. This would be front page in every newspaper if it weren't for the fact that we're in the middle of our 9th constitutional crisis.
The mace is on the front cover of the newspaper.
Yeah. So pay attention to the story.
New York doesn't have these problems.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Scott actually has a non-depressing news.
Non-depressing news? Okay. I mean, so if you want to impress somebody this week and you live somewhere that's not New York City, that's not covered in light pollution, you can actually see the other habitable planets in this universe and galaxy that are not the Earth. Some place where maybe bad things aren't happening. Maybe worse things are happening. Who knows?
Oh yeah, there might be genocidal warfare and Butlerian jihads and AIs. And
Who
worms
knows what
out
the
there.
fuck's going on out there? But if you live somewhere where you can see that, there is gonna be crazy amounts of fucking meteor showers and shooting stars real soon. I think there's like the Draconid meteor, or whatever,
They're gonna
and the
peak
southern
on back-to-back nights.
Yeah, the southern torrid one. It's like basically all these meteor showers are going to be like at peak meteor shower activity,
So,
all at the
Scott-
same time, all up in.
Yep. So the Draconids already peaked.
So find someone who doesn't know that's going to happen and be like,
Scott, the
pretend that
Draconids-
you're a magician or that you're going to, be like, oh man, what if a shooting star shows up? Pew, 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 pew.
Scott, the Draconids peaked 2 nights ago. That's already passed.
Well, there you go.
The Southern Torrid peaked last night. That also already passed.
Well, it's still pretty high activity though.
Yeah, but the peaks already happened in both of these. The
Right.
story's old.
Oh no. I mean, you can't blame me. I was moving and I can't see the sky.
This is literally the second paragraph of the article.
I didn't read the dates.
1, 2.
It was
3.
on Google News as like a news story.
I don't think you read the 4th or 5th sentence
No, I
of
didn't.
this article.
When was the article posted though?
I don't know, but it was updated yesterday
All
at
right.
7:30 p.m.
Yeah, see? So, anyway.
Okay, so I hope you saw those meteor showers.
I mean, that was only the peak though. You'll probably still see some crazy meteor action.
Maybe. I don't know that much about him.
I mean, it's like I assume if it peaks that it's not just like one, there's still lots of, it's just not at the peak activity. It's at slightly less than peak activity.
No, I'm sure the listener will tell us more about that.
I think it also depends. You got to be in the right place on Earth to see them, right? I think if you're like maybe in the Arizona area, you might see them better.
Yeah, well, the tricky part too is living in New York City. The
You
sky,
can't see shit.
like, it does not get dark here.
No.
Like, to the point that the park near our house, like, the lights are
Maybe
all
a nice
broken.
power outage would help us out.
Like, right now, the lights are all
Go,
broken.
go start a wildfire upstate so they'll turn off the power and we can see the sky.
Because I'm actually kind of okay, because New York City is so relatively dense and small that I'm kind of okay with the fact that it's just kind of always lit here. Because it's such a tiny geographic area that's always lit. You can't, there's no way to avoid that with a city like this.
Turn off the fucking lights
What do you mean turn off the lights?
at night.
Then no one can see.
Yeah, stay fucking inside. Go to bed.
I go outside at night all the time.
Don't go to bed.
Why not? Why?
So I can
Why?
see the sky. I'm always shocked though. I do see like on the High Line and other places there are like astronomy clubs like in New York that do like sky watching. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you looking at? The moon and that's it?
You can occasionally see some stuff here.
They're like it's like moon, Venus, Jupiter. Like that's all the fuck they're looking at.
I think all you got to do is go a little bit upstate and you can see every goddamn star.
That's right. But why are they on the High Line? They ain't seeing jack.
Yeah, I do not know. Maybe they're just looking at the moon.
I guess they're just looking at the moon. Maybe they're looking in some windows, seeing some people shooting moons.
Oh, there's actually a lot of people watching the stream.
Yeah. Go away, people. Find something better to do.
Usually people watch the VOD. All right. But anyway, things of the day. So check this out. Borax is actually a really important thing. I use borax now. People use borax for a long stretch of human history.
I only ever used borax in not even school, but in like summer program where I was doing sciencey stuff, and we made Play-Doh with the borax, and that's good Play-Doh, but it doesn't last very long.
Yep. The good way to use borax.
Also, you got to be careful when you do it.
No, borax is like super safe.
No. I mean, like
Making the Play-Doh, yeah, you gotta
yeah,
be
making the
careful. I made
Play-Doh.
that Play-Doh.
Yeah.
That Play-Doh, if you fuck up, you can hurt yourself a little
Yeah.
bit. But borax is a cool thing that's really, really useful, and it's really heavy. And to use it like in an industrial capacity, you need a lot of it. So borax has been collected and transported for a long, long time. And to make a long story short, because I don't want to get into the history of borax now, but I will get into it in the future because it's a topic that I'm actually weirdly interested in and know more about than I should. But anyway, this video shows how the old wagons that had to each be able to carry like 1,000 pounds of borax in an era when you made wagons out of wood. This is people making 600-pound tires with 300-pound hubs to put on these gigantic wooden wagons. And it is really cool and fascinating to see how, with relatively simple tools, you can make these insane wheels. Well, tires, technically.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good video. It's like a half-hour long because it's you know how people talk about like machine porn or manufacturing porn? This is woodworking porn.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm. What was my thing of the day? Oh, yeah. So we all know, or I hope you know, about the history of the gender reveal party. Basically, the story goes...
Straight people had a terrible idea.
Well, one person came up with this idea, and like articles were written about it, and they basically had a party. And at the party, if you don't know, maybe it's not a thing outside America, but
I hope it's not a thing outside of America.
I don't know. They had a little party because they had a baby, and they wanted to like sort of be like, surprise, it's a boy/girl, right? By cutting a cake or something, and like the inside of the cake is pink or blue, or you pop a balloon and pink or blue confetti comes out. It's like you have some interesting way, some mechanism by which you surprise reveal whether the baby is has a penis or not.
Yeah. Now,
right?
obviously, there's already a problem here because
At
that only
birth.
determines biological sex within a spectrum.
Right. I
and
mean,
not
it's
gender.
something that only straight bad people who are old way thinking would think to do, and obviously all right thinking people like us realize how stupid and bad this is, etc. It's ironic that the first baby who was revealed at that first gender reveal party is like a girl who wears suits, I guess, is not a straight person at all. And also the person who had that first party kind of regrets it and wish it didn't become a thing.
Yeah, this trend has gotten weird. In fact, there's a big story about a huge wildfire caused by a gender reveal gone wrong.
Right.
Lot of hicks are using guns and explosives in their gender reveals.
Anyway, so there was a really great whenever gender reveals go wrong, or hilarious stuff gets posted on the internet. So here are people, they got a black balloon, because obviously it's opaque, you can't see what's inside.
This must be from Toronto.
Maybe. They're trying to smash, pinata the giant black balloon. Supposedly something will come out of the balloon revealing the gender of the sex of the baby.
But apparently instead, the baby's gender or sex was revealed to be...
Yeah, the sex of the baby, but they're saying gender. They're wrong,
Yeah.
right? And it's an awesome video because they totally fail.
They fail so badly.
And they deserve it.
And the response to it is wonderful because either the baby's sex is the sky or the black balloon,
right,
or has escaped the gender binary.
Right, yeah. This the comments and the retweets with quote on this. Not the video is excellent on its own, but the quote.
The video's like a renaissance. You know that video where the golf cart on the football field like runs away and you watch this like drama unfold? It's similar in scale to that in terms of how badly it goes for them.
Yep. And then an additional, I have a second addendum thing of the day. It's it's not from The Onion, but it's from an Onion-y kind of site with a fake story. And it's basically like, oh yeah, adventurers have alignment reveal party.
Just, he's chaotic evil, hooray!
Well, it's chaotic evil.
Yeah,
it's not a sex reveal party. It's just
Yep.
alignment only.
All right. In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book remains The Tale of Genji. As the weather gets worse and worse, we are more
By the
likely-
way, there was a discovery.
I was going to bring this up and you beat me to it. So do we have to include that now too?
No.
Okay. Okay.
We are going to read the Penguin Deluxe Unabridged Tale of Genji.
The one that's got linked to on the website.
Yes, the one that is linked on the website. That's the edition we are going to be discussing. I'm sure you probably won't be lost in the discussion if you read some other version, but regardless, that's the version we're going to read. But yeah, they found another section of the book that was written different. Because remember, it's all written by hand. It's not like they had printing press copy machines. And it had different wordings of a section, and I got to translate that viz. So yeah, they discovered some more Tale of Genji.
Yep.
Kinda.
You do not have to read that additional Tale of Genji to do our book club. Don't worry.
No, I will see how significant it is. I'm sure soon.
Yep. And otherwise, we will be live at PAX Unplugged doing not one, but two events.
Oh,
And
good.
one of
Only
those
two
events
events.
is actually 3 mini events, meaning we're doing 4 things at PAX Unplugged other than playing tabletop games for the entire time, never stopping.
That's right.
So we will be doing a brand new panel that I'm really excited about. We've been wanting to do this one at a PAX for a while, but PAX Unplugged is like the perfect place to do it. We are doing a panel called Take Your Fucking Turn.
Is it called Take Your Fucking
Well,
Turn?
it's called Take Your a bunch of characters turn.
Okay.
Because the panel is we're going to talk about why people don't take their turn in board games, we're going to teach you how to take your turn fast. We're going to talk about game design and sociology and all the things that cause people to not take their turns fast.
Well, but also games being slow, games
Yep.
feeling slow.
Sometimes
Why are some games slower or faster than others?
Yeah, I'd like to give you a preview.
Why are some
Sometimes-
players faster or slow than others?
Sometimes it's the player's fault. Sometimes it's the game's fault.
It's the game's fault more often than you think.
Yep.
Not to say it's never the player's fault.
Some games could be fast, but if a certain player is a certain way, the game will be ruined and be extra slow.
Some games, right, are fast or slow depending on details. Like, oh, we played Dominion. It took 2 seconds. We played
Yup.
Dominion again. Curses for everybody. Well, this
Yup.
takes forever.
Yep. I've been down that road before.
Yep.
Or even our Space Train game. That game might have actually gone a lot faster if we had rusted those spaceships earlier.
Yep.
So some games have time traps in them. So
Yep.
brand new talk. First time ever. So it'll be fun to see how this one goes. And then we'll be doing a learn to play and win where we're going to teach you how to learn and win. Cockroach poker.
Learn and I
Wizard.
thought just learn and play. We're not doing
We're going to teach you the game. We're going to teach you how to win the game. And then we're going to all play the game together. Cockroach poker, Ganshan clever, and wizard.
But we can only teach people how to win the first one and the third one. We don't know how to win Ganshan Clever. I can't even get to that's pretty clever.
I think actually what I'm going to teach people how to win in Ganshan Clever is learn how to win Yahtzee and just apply those skills as best you can.
Yeah, I don't think we're qualified to tell people how to win that game.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
We're going to give some previews of our current early heuristics on how to play that game that we have not vetted thoroughly.
Why don't we find an expert and get their advice?
Why don't we just play the game like 100 times before PAX Unplugged? We
All
got a
right.
lot. We got some time.
Come on over.
I'm game. I'm game. So stay tuned. PAX Unplugged is coming. And not too long after that is PAX South. And before PAX South is MagFest, which is also Mag Year because it's over New Year's. And then not too long after that is PAX East. And then before you know it, PAX West again.
Mm-hmm.
We go to a lot of PAXs. Also, I think PAX Oz is this weekend.
Yep.
Obviously, we didn't make it. We will return to a PAX Oz someday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm vaguely planning on returning to PAX Oz. I don't know if you want to come. Not next year, because I'm going to Japan. But if not the year after next year, then almost definitely the year after the next year, meaning the following year.
Did you know that there are many enforcers at PAX Oz who are GeekNights listeners?
Oh, I'm well aware.
Including one of whom is in charge of the entire panels department at PAX Oz. If you are at PAX Oz and you find the enforcer who is in charge of the entire panels department, they listen to this show, so you can connect with them socially.
In fact, actually, I will say a lot of enforcers at PAX Oz listen to this show, and the enforcers at PAX Oz are a fucking awesome group of people.
They are not going to hear the show because they are busy PAX Ozzing probably right now.
Yeah.
Because in Australia, it's already tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it is. In New York, it is Thursday night.
So in Australia, it must be Friday, right?
PAX Oz is
Type time in Australia into Google.
the better. You don't use the World Time Buddy?
No, just go to Google and type time in Australia.
No, I'm going to the World Time Buddy.
Okay, fine.
Because I'm going to put in a bunch of time zones here. We can put every PAX here and make the PAX dashboard.
We don't need that. Anyway.
Actually, I use this site a lot.
the point is, what the fuck day and time is it in Melbourne?
Yeah? Oh, right now in
Yes.
Melbourne.
Is it Friday?
6:52 p.m. on Thursday, October. Oh, I changed the time.
This is why I just said go to Google and type time in Australia.
I will link to World Time Buddy, though, because I've noticed if you are the kind of person who has
Like I said, it's 10 a.m. on Friday. In fact, PAX Oz is going to start in 8 minutes from right now when I'm
Yeah.
recording this. I guess anyone watching live on YouTube is waiting in line to get into the PAX Oz.
Yep. All I got to say is if you were there, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time. So, let's get into this moving. We did a show about moving
When
back
we
2006.
right, because we moved to Beacon in 04-05-ish and started Geek Nights not too long after in October 05. It's currently October 19, so Geek Nights is 14 years old.
Which is terrifying in its own right. In fact, we are coming up because Geek Nights started on October 31st, 2005. That
Yep.
was the first published public episode of Geek Nights. We're coming up on our 15th fucking year.
I thought, 15th year. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, we did a show around then about moving because we had recently moved from Rochester to Beacon.
And that was, in fact, the first, like, full move of a house or apartment that I had ever done where it wasn't like my family moving.
Yeah, it was on
Like,
you.
It was on me.
It was
and
mostly on me.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of shit I had to move too.
My parents only helped me the tiniest bit when I moved stuff out of Colony and into a storage box.
Yep. And I didn't. I just packed all my shit in a car and drove it to Poughkeepsie at one point.
You had a lot less shit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, all that furniture. That
Well,
was
no,
left-
didn't you drive it all to the beach first?
I drove everything I owned except my furniture to Well, I drove it to Lansing, Michigan, actually.
Oh, right.
Then I drove it a few days later from Lansing, Michigan to Wildwood, left it in my car in Wildwood for like a month, and then I drove it.
Anyway, but yeah, on that show,
To that point, when I drove that car, I couldn't see out any windows but the front and my left window, and I had a monitor that was precariously balanced next to me.
the point is when we
time.
did that show, we only talked about that move specifically. We did not talk about moving as a general topic. And Rim,
also, we were young
We
and dumb.
probably did an episode about moving in general, but Rim probably deleted it.
Yep. But we were also young and dumb, so we had some ideas about moving, and the way we handled the move was definitely colored by the fact that we didn't know a lot about it. We wanted to do it all ourselves because we're stupid.
Didn't want to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, we did. We still spent a lot of money despite not wanting to spend a lot of money.
Not nearly as much money as I spent just now.
Yep, but that truck was not cheap.
No.
And also, that truck was way too big, and I was not qualified to drive a truck that big.
Right. All right. So, let's talk about moving. So you live in one place. You want to live in another place. My first piece of advice to you is don't own so much shit like I do.
Yes,
If you don't have a lot of shit, you can just fucking get your ass up and go the fuck anywhere, and life is great.
If you have an excuse, if you are moving because you're forced to, you're moving because you want to, it doesn't matter. Consider moving an excuse to look at everything you own and try to get rid of as much of it as possible.
That's right. Don't be like me and have too much nerdy shit you can't let go of. I'm not at the hoarder level, right, like some people, but I do have enough shit to where it is a burden, but I cannot part with most of it. I parted with a nice hefty piles, but I still have hefty piles.
I just looked up, and I have a shelf for all the like batteries for all the like video Geek Night stuff, and I just noticed I have a battery for a camera I have not owned in years.
Yep, that's the kind of thing you would.
damn it.
It's the kind of thing you would throw out if you moved. But
Gold
when
guy, I'm gonna give this to you. You could use this battery. It's for that camera I gave you.
But when you're just living in a place, you don't notice a thing like that. Maybe you do notice it, and you say, "Oh, I'll take care of that later."
But if you have to
and
get
you
all
don't.
your shit out of every place you've squirreled it away for a decade and put it into boxes, you immediately realize that you own way too much shit.
Right. So if you follow that advice and you don't own too much shit, moving is like a fucking piece of cake, right? You just take the little shit you have, rent like the smallest U-Haul at most, right? And you put everything in, you go to the new place, you end one lease, you start another lease, you sign a mortgage. That's not part of this episode, right? And you put all the shit in it. It'll take you a day or maybe some transportation time. Not a big deal. You don't need to hire help. You don't need to really do much. Life is grand, right? So moving is really only a topic we're discussing for people who got too much stuff.
Yep.
Right?
Though, even if you don't have too much stuff, moving is still kind of a pain in the ass. Because even if I do not have too
the
much
point
stuff,
is, the less stuff you have, moving becomes exponentially easier. And
Yup.
the more stuff you have, it becomes exponentially more difficult with each added stuff.
Yep. The other very important thing that I learned from all these moves that I didn't quite internalize until I was older is every time you move, you pretty much just throw away any IKEA furniture you have.
I
will not
saved
survive.
I saved the bookcases.
Oh, nice.
And
A lot of my IKEA furniture did not survive.
what IKEA furniture survived? None, other than Billy bookcases. I saved, I think, no IKEA furniture that comes to mind.
Yep.
My bed, my junk collectors came and smashed up the bed and took it. The dresser also taken away by junk collectors. The desk gone. Oh, the wheelie file cabinet that came with the desk was actually still is in great condition, but I bought a newer, better IKEA filing cabinet thing that's just superior, and now the old one is rolling around my new apartment empty and will be disposed of soon.
So what's interesting is
If anyone wants one, let me know.
I have all these memories because as a kid, like you've lived in pretty much the same house your whole childhood, but we actually moved houses.
I lived in 3 places, but only one of them was a place I lived in from like the ages of like 2 to 18. So my memories of the other 2 places are 0 and minuscule.
Let's see. I was born in Detroit, like the house on Berkshire. I'm trying to remember. So I was born in this house on Berkshire, which I remember barely, but I have these vague memories of this house. Then we moved to a rental house, like really temporarily, during another move. Then we moved to the house on Harvard, also in Detroit. Then we moved to Anchor Bay, like New Baltimore for a while. Then we moved to Sterling Heights. And in Sterling Heights, we were actually looking at buying a different house in the same town and moving to that house, but we didn't actually do it. Then I moved to RIT, and that was when I brought way too much shit with me. Then we moved to the apartment in Colony. And then after living there for a while, they kicked us out for a summer, and then we had to move back into that place. That was a pain in the ass. Then we moved to Beacon. Then we both split into the apartments in New York, and then you moved to a new apartment in New York. So I moved a bunch of times in my life. As a kid, doesn't matter. Moving is just awesome when you're a kid. The adults were super stressed every time. Like, movers were coming and packing stuff up, and strangers were in the house, and we're like taking things apart. And I just remember enjoying every second of it and reveling in the chaos.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go on moving as a kid, right? It's like new school, new so it's like it can upend all that stuff, but I've never experienced that. I've only experienced it. I've experienced it through the media and through other people.
What was really interesting is that just by chance, my brother got a lot more of that disruption, but based on my age, every time we moved was at a clear like separation point between one type of school and another. We moved right at the end of elementary school as I was going into middle school. We moved at the end of middle school as I was going into high school. So it made it like really, really easy.
I mean, I did semi-experience it, right? Like, times where like I changed. Like, even when I changed schools, it's still in the same town, but it was like a lot of new people. It was almost like,
we moved
even
to
though I lived in
new towns,
even though I was in the same house at home, that didn't move, right? It's still, I still had that social upheaval by switching a school or like switching a summer camp, stuff like that. Experiencing the new people thing. So I could just imagine moving being sort of like that with the school situation.
Yep, and I have all these just vague kid memories of like the adults packing. I remember one point I was carrying around a 2-liter bottle of cream soda and just drinking from it. And I don't think my parents knew I had this bottle and that I was drinking the whole thing. And I just remember like watching these movers having a really hard time trying to get this really giant piece of antique furniture into the rental house that we're only going to be in for like a month. And I just remember standing there watching them. Just like this very crystal clear kid memory. But anyway, none of that's really relevant.
All right, so when you're an adult and you're the stressed out person who's got to move.
Yep, that's what we're all going to be.
So option 1, spend a fuck ton of money
I'm gonna
and
say
have
this,
somebody take care of every goddamn thing.
If you can afford that, even if it's a stretch.
If you can afford that, your life is already easy.
Yeah, but like that is expensive even for us.
There are people who you can pay who will come, pack up all your things. You have to lift no finger whatsoever. They'll pack up all your shit at your instruction, take it to where you are moving to, unpack it, and place it where it belongs in the new place according to your instruction.
Like to the level of they will put your clothes in the right closets.
Right. You will leave the place. You will just get up and walk out of your house like you're going to the mall or wherever, or going out to dinner.
Like go on vacation for the weekend.
Right. You'll go on vacation or go to a hotel or go wherever you're going to go. And then they'll tell you they're done, and you will, or they'll schedule, and you'll know when they'll be done. And you arrive, and at the new place, your silverware is already in the drawer. Your clothes are in the closet. Your TV is plugged into the entertainment center, which is fully set up and ready to use. If you can't afford this, do it. Also, fuck you. Die in a fire, rich person.
I would say it. I don't actually know how much that would cost, but I would save up to try to do it, depending on where I was moving.
It depends on how far you're moving and how much stuff you have, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That kind of service is actually pretty reasonable price if you are moving from relatively small apartment to other relatively small apartment in the same city.
Yep.
But if you're moving like a house to a house, that would cost like more than a car.
Right. So you could, so basically that service, that is the top tier moving service. Moving companies allow you to scale that service down to basically almost nothing.
Yep.
And everywhere in between.
What I would recommend,
with extreme granularity. right? It's like, well, I want you to unpack my stuff, but not pack it. I want you to pack some stuff, but not everything. I want you to, at every level of, I want you to take it this far, but don't take it all the way. Move this stuff, but not that stuff. You can literally, with every measure of granularity, the moving companies, the good ones, will service and price you accordingly.
Yep.
Right?
The sweet spot in terms of like, even if you're money sensitive, which you should be, because the sweet spot is pretty much get a moving company that is a real company that has insurance and is bonded.
Yep. A lot of buildings will check or, to make sure.
Do not
right.
use non-insured moving companies.
They won't, like, if you live in a certain kind of building, as opposed, right, they'll want to make sure that they'll want proof that they're insured. Otherwise, they won't let them in. Because that means that if those movers bust something up in the building, like say the elevator, then who's going to pay for that?
Well, when we moved,
insurance would pay for that if they had insurance.
So the last time we moved before we came, like when we were moving to New York City out of our house in Beacon,
You used 3 Russian dudes in a truck.
No, we used 3 Georgian dudes in a truck.
Okay, right.
But they caused a surprising amount of damage to the house on the way out.
That's right.
In fact, almost immediately they put a giant hole in the ceiling.
Yep.
So we were just on the hook for that.
Yep.
That was just awesome.
Yep.
So make sure they got insurance and actually check to see that that's not just fake.
If the
there are
moving
a lot of moving companies that are scams.
If the moving company is super pro, like the one I just hired, they're like, oh, by the way, if any buildings ask for insurance, blah, blah, blah. It's like they're upfront about the insurance thing,
Yep.
right? They took care of everything.
Find a real moving company and get a real quote from them. And the sweet spot to
Get
shoot
real
for-
quotes from several real moving companies.
Yes. Because moving companies don't just post prices. Anyone who says a flat rate is probably a scam and is probably going to fuck you over.
Nope. The way the moving company, they wanted to know, they had to give them an estimate and then a quote, right? And the estimate, they wanted to know exactly what I was moving, the exact amount of stuff, like 1 bed, 10 small boxes, 20 medium boxes, 5 large boxes.
Oh, and along those lines,
if
you want to estimate
1 couch, 2 bookcase, 1 TV. It's like they want to know an exact list of what you're moving, and then they give you a price based on that.
however many boxes you think you need, you probably need literally a third more than that.
Well, the thing is, my move actually would have been pretty easy. The only thing that ruined me was the books. I have so many fucking books. And the thing with books is they're heavy as hell.
So you have to use the small boxes.
You have to use small, right? You think, oh, I'll just get a few big boxes and put all my stuff in it. Well, then you can't lift that box, dumbass.
Yep.
Right? You have to get, for heavy things, you need small boxes and lots of them. And for light, fluffy things, you can get big boxes, right?
Other very important
So
point
my
there.
books fit in 40 small boxes, which...
That sounds about right.
And the price it costs to move the boxes, now you got to do some calculations. Like, well, what if I just get rid of this shit and just buy it again? If I actually
That's
need it.
usually cheaper.
If I actually need it, I'll buy it again. If I get rid of it and never want to read that book again, then it wasn't a loss that I got rid of it and I saved money by not moving it.
Yep.
Right? You have to make these kinds of calculations along the way.
There's a subtle point here about those boxes. Buy new boxes. Hopefully they're made from recycled material, but buy
And then
new
recycle them when
boxes-
you're done.
Yeah, buy new boxes that are all the same sizes and shapes. Like if you need 3 kinds of boxes, buy 50 of each kind of box.
I bought all boxes that were made by the same company.
Yep.
And they
Try
were
to
like,
avoid Uline because there's like conservative shit that goes on with that company. as
yeah,
far
I
as
mean,
can
I don't
tell.
know if I bought Banker's box. I don't know if they're better or worse. I'm not endorsing or whatever. The reason I chose them was because they had lids.
Yeah,
and-
the Uline is like super partisan and bad. Like, do not.
Yeah, don't
use
do
Uline.
any business with any Uline anything.
Even though they have like a stranglehold on this stuff.
But anyway, the point is, the boxes I got had lids, which makes it great for moving because you don't have to like seal the box with tape and then, well, that's sealed. You can keep rearranging and cramming more stuff into boxes, to hopefully reduce your costs by opening and closing them and rearranging Tetrising, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so it took me, in order to save money, I packed my own shit into
Yep.
my...
Sweet spot. Here's the deal. Pack your own shit, except for all your furniture. Have the movers pack that, take it apart, all that nonsense.
Right.
Because they're going to have a bunch of stuff you don't own that you don't want to buy and rent, like all the moving pads and the bubble wrap and all the stuff to like make that happen. Unless you are a professional and you know what you're doing, you're going to fuck that up.
Right.
You think you've wrapped it securely, that you're going to break shit. You're going to break way more things than you realize.
It's also going to take all fucking day, right? It's like,
Yep.
how long did it take us to get, right? In the last moving episode, we talked about getting that fucking couch
Oh my God.
into the apartment.
Oh, it took us over an hour to
right.
get one one thing into our apartment.
Right, but meanwhile, when we moved out of Beacon, right, the junk collecting donating people picked it up and walked out in like a minute.
Even those Georgian dudes, even though they were not bonded and not insured, they knew their shit. So they emptied all the furniture, every piece of furniture that was still in that house in less time than it took us to get that fucking couch from the truck to the porch.
It took me weeks to put all my shit into boxes, and even then, a lot of shit didn't actually make it into a box. It was kind of a little bit haphazard.
Yep.
A lot of leftovers and knickknacks here and there. Those movers came in. It took them an hour to empty the apartment. Like, bam. Like, all the furniture, all the boxes, all the stuff that was poorly packed, well packed, everything. And that included, getting new boxes and packing more shit.
Pay for that. Do not just try to put it all in a truck yourself unless you truly live a minimalist life.
It costs a lot of money, but that's partially because they made 2 stops before then arriving at the destination, right, to pick up someone else's stuff, right? But yeah, it was like it's like if I hadn't had paid that money, I would have been so burned if I had to do that some other way.
Especially because there's one thing that goes on here with houses and moving.
I would have basically my alternative. All I would have done is either A, completely fuck up, or B, suffer a great deal.
Moving.
C, all of the above.
Moving.
D, get rid of all my shit. I don't know.
Moving from a house to a house is easier in one sense, in that you have a whole house to like stage things in.
Yeah,
and two, the overlap period. Like, I'm not going to explain to you how mortgages work, but usually you'll have like a 30, 60, or 90-day residency and all this stuff, meaning you will still have your house and have like between 1 and 3 months of having the new house. So you have time to move stuff. With apartments and leases and like the way we all have
My
to
lease
live.
ended on a day, and the new lease, I had a 15-day overlap.
And even though we got money, we can't afford to pay 2 New York rents.
Fuck no.
For longer than like a day or two.
My money went so way down. I lost, right, between moving, paying more rents, paying security deposits, trying to get security deposits back, paying all these other services besides movers, buying new furnitures.
If you move in New York,
I lost a large portion of my monies.
Moving in New York, like, if you have a week overlap, like, that's as good as you're going to get. That means you, like, timed this perfectly.
Yep. I had 15 days, and I made it. And then even after I got all this stuff out, I had to, like, keep going back to the old apartment to hire, like, a cleaning service and, like, all junk collecting to clean out old stuff from the old place to make it, perfectly empty. Again.
Yep.
But yeah, then when the moving company, they did great at doing the final bits of packing, not all the packing. I did most of it, right? Getting everything out in a truck, bringing it to the new place, putting it all in the new place. They put, the large pieces of furniture where they were directed to, but mostly the boxes were just like, all right, here's your boxes. Unpacking's on you.
Yep.
And I'm still not completely unpacked yet.
Oh, it took us a month to unpack when we moved into this
We
apartment.
finally have all the furniture and other things. The hanging guy came today. He hung the shelves, and he hung the TV on the wall.
Now, in houses, when people move into houses, I've often heard this strategy that I think is brilliant, and we even did it when we moved as kids. You only unpack boxes as you need the things in them.
Yep.
And
if a box never gets unpacked, it means nothing. You don't need anything in there. Just throw it out.
Yep.
Or donate it or whatever.
Yep. So you put all the after you do the initial unpacking, all the boxes that still have stuff in them, you just put them in the basement and wait, see what happens. But in an apartment, there's nowhere to put those boxes.
No, I basically all my stuff that in an apartment was efficiently stored in closets in various places, right, to save space and clear out room, had to get brought out into the open and put in a box. Now, there was no room to move around my apartment as I was moving out of it.
Oh, I should post the picture I have of when we moved into this apartment.
Because the boxes were taking up all the room. I couldn't even get to my desk or anything.
Our living room is just completely full of boxes and disassembled furniture.
Yep.
Like, it's a nightmare picture. And I remember this moment. I was standing in the living room. It was dark because we didn't even have the lights unpacked yet. I was by myself. I was looking at this giant pile of shit, despairing at the world.
Yep.
And I just closed my eyes and I imagined to myself, there will be a day, maybe not now, maybe not next week, but there will be a day where all of this has transformed into there is a couch and a TV, and I'm going to sit on that couch and turn on that TV and play a video game.
Yep.
And a month later, I achieved that dream.
I'm going to be at that day like within a week.
Yep. And then you will start resuming your life.
Yep.
You still have time to join our Burning Wheel game. I haven't even uploaded my character yet.
Maybe. I'm more concerned with other things I got to take care of.
Yeah. Well, we also got some Geek Night stuff we got to do. And we've gone on for over an hour, so I think we are just done.
Okay.
Yeah, people seem to like this one.
Yeah.